Hi, everybody. Are you ready for?
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Could you turn off your microphone? Yeah, thank you. Okay, today's topic is very exciting. It's about government intervention in the markets, okay, in free markets. Uh, I recommend more than 90% of the time, government intervention is generally a mistake. They should not intervene in the free market mechanism. I will cite several failures, several cases of failures. Okay, how does the government intervene in the free market? Well, the textbook mentions three examples, three ways to intervene in the free market mechanism, okay? And I will add a couple more. One is price ceiling. That's a legal maximum price. An example would be a rent control, like in New York City and other popular cities, population dense cities like Tokyo. Second mechanism is price floor. Sometimes you can impose a legal minimum price, like minimum wage, or the government could impose a tax on consumption, on either consumption or production, like cigarettes and liquors, marijuana, etc. Fourth method would be, let me spell it out, ration. R A T I O N. Okay, I will cite one example. Fifth method would be controlling quality. Okay, that's the area where the government can do something without damaging the market mechanism. Okay, so let's begin with the price ceiling. An example is rent control in Tokyo, New York City, etc. So here is the demand curve and the supply curve, and the intersection gives you the equilibrium price or rent in New York City. But these people complain in New York City a two-bedroom apartment would be $3,000 per month. And they complain, lots of poor people complain about high rents. So New York City municipal government could impose a price ceiling like this, okay? That's called the price ceiling. This price ceiling forces renters not to charge, they are not allowed to charge the equilibrium price, but a price well below the equilibrium price level, okay? And that causes a shortage in the market. So at this rate, at this price ceiling, that many people want the apartments. Only a small number of those people will be able to rent the apartments. So this is the quantity supplied. So that many people will be turned away. They have to find something else. In effect, that many apartments must be rationed among that many consumers, okay? So usually the landowners or the owners, landlords would be allocating someone they know, a relative. Could you, okay, We need to.
3-foot pegs.
Lick your foot.
Would you take your sock and shoe off? So I
Get
can send
shit
foot pics?
on.
No, I'm fucking kidding. Our whiteboard says like send feet pics to someone's Snapchat, all kinds of shit. Like our hall whiteboard. There's a glizzy.
Okay, that's what I should do from now on. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so landlords have to allocate that many units of apartments among so many people. So they usually rent them to their relatives, nephews, nieces, etc. Or someone you know. So consumers have to be nice, develop relations with landlords, effectively paying actually a high price, this price, okay? That's the effective price that consumers are forced to pay. So, okay, the second example is price ceiling, okay, price floor. You cannot lower they are raising equilibrium wage rate, for instance, is $6, but in order to help the poor people, the city or the state government or the federal government could raise the minimum wage to $7.25, etc. So this many people are willing to work, but only that many workers are hired. So all these people in this range don't have a job, okay? So that's the effect of the minimum wage, for instance. In Cuba, instead of a minimum wage, they have maximum wage. They have a upper limit, maximum limit on the wage. So Cuban doctors are getting only $20 to $40 per month, which are peanuts, I guess. So that's what happens. So let's consider some actual examples. So Venezuela used to be one of the richest countries in Latin America. Their oil reserve is the largest in the world. Their oil reserve is 300 billion barrels. Compare that to US oil reserve, which is only about 47 billion barrels. So they are the richest country in the world in terms of oil reserve, and it is also a founding member of the OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And their oil firm is called Petroleos de Venezuela, PDV. And because of the rising inequality in Venezuela, Hugo Chavez was elected president, and he began to use oil revenue to subsidize social programs. So he cut the price of oil to less than 1 penny per gallon. That's not going to last. Even today, it's a few pennies per gallon. When we were paying under President Obama, our oil price went up to went over $4 per gallon. At least we had oil, okay? But I think they meant well. They are trying to help the poor people, but good intentions do not necessarily guarantee good outcomes, okay? So unless you know exactly what you are doing, unless you are well staffed with intelligent economists, it's better not to manipulate the free market mechanism. Okay, it's not very easy. So Venezuela turned toward socialism in 1999, and Chavez was succeeded by Maduro. He cut the oil price, so even today it's a few pennies per gallon today. And he nationalized the multinational businesses without compensation, meaning outright stealing, robbing foreign multinational companies. So what happened to the country? Here is a picture of gas shortage. This poor guy, this poor soul is pushing his own car all the way to the gas station, local gas station, not knowing. I don't think they have smartphones, which could have saved his effort. So he would have seen the gas station was probably empty like this. Well, oil price so low, you're not making money. The more you sell, the more you lose. So why should you supply the product? So the lines of cars disappeared. Third mechanism is, we'll worry about tax later, ration. Sometimes rationing is used in emergency, especially during war. Like the city of Jerusalem was laid siege in AD 68, and a lot of, because of conflicts within the city of Jerusalem, two parties was burning their own grains, which would have lasted 6 years, but because of the fire, thousands of people were dying every day. Likewise, during the siege of Leningrad during World War II, for 872 days, beginning in September 1941, they had to resort to drastic methods, rationing. You can suspend the free market mechanism in this case, and that's what the Russian people did. Free market mechanism basically means the goods will be allocated to the highest bidders. Okay, that doesn't sound fair during war. So these poor Russian people, instead of, they suspended the market mechanism and they relied on rationing. How? Because thousands of people were dying every day. They allocated first to children, 300 grams of bread every day to children, and I think women also included. And adult workers, I guess they have to fight worker or go to the streets, etc. They were allocated more, a little more, but these, despite this rationing and drastic methods of rationing, more than 1 million people died of starvation. One of my friends who grew up during this period told me that more than 1 million people indeed starved to death. And there were statues of cats. So why do you put cat statue here? Well, during this period, there were no cats. No cats survived because everybody was cooking them, eating them. Now, these days, there are lots of people arguing, insisting on free medical care, free college education, etc. It sounds like a rosy idea, but you have to look at the consequences and learn from history. A good example is Cuba. Free healthcare means price is zero. Upper limit price, maximum price is zero for healthcare. Cuba gained independence from the United States in 1902, and they went through the Cuban Revolution. Uh, and let's not spend too much time. Their per capita GDP officially is over $8,000, but in terms of black market exchange rates, it's only $300 per year. Okay, so why Cuban doctors are becoming cab drivers? Well, it's obvious. These guys are driving. They cannot. They don't have money to import modern automobiles from the United States. I guess these maybe experts know this. These cars, American automobiles, produced in the maybe 50s or 60s even, and a Cuban medical doctor could earn $40 a month when a cab driver earns $60 a day, even on worst days. So many medical doctors in Cuba abandoned their medical practice and became medical doctors. Likewise, when I visited Poland during the early 1980s, I talked to a cab driver. He seems to know what is going on. And he said he used to be a professor, but said professor salary was not much, so he became a cab driver. He was making more money in this country of Poland. Okay, so these days in the United States, medical doctors, typical average medical doctor earns about $200,000 to $300,000. So typical American doctor earns about 300 or 5 times more than the average Cuban medical doctors. And there you have it, free education, free medical school education. Who's gonna say no? But there are consequences. They are using up resources and there are opportunity costs. If you don't pay, someone else will pay. So if you want free education, free college education, great. Then we'll have to let all these professors go because they are not likely to stay here and volunteer in teaching. Some of us will remain. Maybe I'll be happy to do that. People will be leaving, and eventually there will be the end of college education. So Cuba is exporting medical doctors to other countries. They're earning like $4,000, and 3/4 of that is kept by the Cuban government, and the Cuban medical doctors survive on the remaining portion of about $750. Even for that, there is a long line of volunteers. So that's what happens with the free medical care. Like in North Korea, yeah, medical care is free, but the situation is much the same as in Cuba. If you go see a medical doctor, yeah, you can see them. Well, how do you get medicine? No, they don't have any medicine. You have to go to the black market to acquire all these medicines. So it's not exactly free, okay? Now, what about the price controls in the United States? US government is very smart. They rarely intervene in the private market except in emergency, as I mentioned, like during World War II. some resources must be allocated. Even today, we have a COVID virus crisis. So I think our government, U.S. government, has secured, I think even paid for it already, for 100 million COVID virus vaccines. We have not acquired them yet, but it takes time to mass produce these COVID virus vaccines. United States does not have the facility. Germany, we are acquiring these vaccines from German pharmaceutical company called Pfizer. We might get them in October, November, or December. I don't know. At any rate, and then they will be allocated probably free of charge. That will cost maybe a few $billions. But we are getting a priority allocation from the German pharmaceutical company, Pfizer. So did price ceiling succeed in the United States? There is one other example. On August 15th of 1971, there's a picture of President Richard Nixon. He announced three things: 90-day freeze on price and wages. At the time, I guess it was an emergency. US dollar was backed by gold, and he was announcing that US dollar is no longer backed by gold. The French government sent a warship to the United States to retrieve $200 million worth of gold. So that was an emergency, I guess. So I guess he had a good reason to impose 90-day freeze on prices and wages. Were they effective? No. So initially, yeah, price of chocolate bars, you want to raise? No, you cannot do that. So no American firms raised wage during this period. What about price? Price was frozen from that time onward. But there are many ways to bypass this price freeze. I noticed that Hershey's chocolate bars were shrinking. Not at first, but within a few weeks, they were shrinking. And every week, Hershey's chocolate bars were shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Yeah, they maintained the same prices, but quantity was shrinking, okay? Eventually, a few months later, after currency realignment with Japan, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, these price ceilings were lifted. So these were some examples. Okay, next, let's take a look at rent control. As I mentioned earlier, the intersection of the demand curve and supply curve yields the equilibrium price. So that would be the equilibrium rent. But well-meaning municipal governments could impose rent ceiling, like $500 per month. Realistically, it would be $2,500 per month for a two-bedroom apartment in Manhattan or New York City. So this will be rent ceiling, but only that many people will be chosen to receive these apartments under rent control. Does this rent control really work? Well, not really. So here is a picture of the many suburban houses in Tokyo suburb. Nice looking roofs, ceramic tiles, made of ceramic tiles. So this is the rental market situation in Tokyo. If you want to rent an apartment, or rather, very few people are rich enough to pay $4,000 per month. Rental situation in Tokyo is probably worse than in New York City. This rent prices even worse in Hong Kong. That's where I lived many summers. 800 sorry, for 800 square feet apartment prices like $1.5 million today. But after President Trump imposed charges for Communist Party members, things might be quite different. Many American firms are decoupling, following the decoupling directives, and they're moving out of Hong Kong. So right at the moment, I'm not quite sure about the rental prices in Hong Kong. But at any rate, Hong Kong used to be the worst place to rent apartment. In Tokyo, Shinjuku area, etc. Rent prices are very high. So very few people are renting the whole unit. You would be renting one room here and there. So this is their rental practice. You have to pay deposit for which is worth 2 months rent, and you have to pay key money. Usually that's equal to that amounts to 2 months rent to the landlord, and that's gratitude money. That means you're offering it no refund. There is no refund. This is your gift. Thank you, landlord, for letting me rent this small room. Okay, this is not refundable. And then you have to pay finder's fee to your real estate agent. That's equal to 1 month's rent plus 8% tax and so on. And then you have to come up with the first month's rent. So you need like 6 months rent outright at the beginning. So this is how they extract the extra money in addition to the first month's rent, okay? So of course you could bypass this extra rental cost by being a relative to your uncle, okay? You can maybe pay only 1 month's rent without paying all these exorbitant money, gift, and things like this. So rental situation is very tough, was very tough some time ago, but now they are hit by double whammies. One is the COVID virus crisis. So millions of people are now escaping, running away from the city of Tokyo because of coronavirus, because they don't know whether the neighbors have corona patients or not. So lots of them are leaving the city. So maybe there is no reason to regulate rent anymore. Okay, but this was the situation just before the uh, COVID virus crisis. Uh, the second shock in the rental market in Tokyo was the gradual decline in the number of young people because rental price is so high. Uh, Students and employees uh, are paying high rents. So young couples were having fewer babies, and lots of old women and men were retiring. Many of the baby boomers have retired, so they don't, or retired or died. So uh, not many people are renting apartments in Tokyo. So we have a reverse shock. So here's a picture. There are many empty apartments and houses in suburbs of Tokyo. This is a picture of an abandoned house in Hokkaido province, uh, June of last year. Many perfectly fine houses, expensive houses, which used to be close to 1 million US dollars, now abandoned, empty. People, there are not that many young people anymore. So many houses are abandoned like this. So if you get a one-way ticket to Japan, you can go there and live there. Well, you may have to make some repairs. Here is a picture of Disneyland in Nara, which used to be the capital of Japan, like in the eighth century A.D. It was making good money, but as the population declined, old people died away, and not many young people are around. So there is no demand for such theme park or Disneyland um, in Nara anymore. Uh, so many of this Disneyland is abandoned over there. Okay, the fifth method of regulating the free market in the United States is quality control or quality regulation. There was a raid by the Chinese government in organic food market, organic food produce market in China, and all of them were saying, "Oh, we're selling organic foods," and consumers. There was a research conducted on organic food demand. Generally speaking, consumers are willing to pay double the price. So if the non-organic food price is $2, they are willing to pay $4. Okay, that's what consumers are willing to pay for real, genuine organic food. So when the Chinese government conducted the raid and did the analysis, more than 90% of these organic produce farmers, it turned out they were just putting labels organic for regular regular products. Okay, they were just simply saying these are organic food products. Uh, so there must be a way to verify uh, the origin, making sure that these farmers are selling products and their labels genuinely identify the source of origin or source or the origin, and indicate whether they are indeed organic foods or not. So somebody must police these producers. Okay. So that's what the government can do. And these days, because of the Fukushima uh, disaster that occurred a few years ago, the 3 or 4 atomic reactors in Fukushima region, Fukushima Ken, blew up, spewed huge amount of radioactive dust consisting of tritium and cesium. And the atomic dust spread all over around the region. And this summer, they were supposed to have they were supposed to have the Olympic Games, but the Japanese government postponed it, right? And many of these Fukushima regions, Fukushima is very famous for delicious peaches. They are world-renowned peaches. But now you don't want to eat radioactive Fukushima peaches any longer. It's not just peaches. So if you label this was produced in Fukushima region, nobody's going to buy these Fukushima peaches and tomatoes and so on, apples. So this is a rumor. I have not personally verified the radio active level. I have not used Geiger counters to measure the radioactivity of these produced, but the rumor has it that many of these were actually loaded with the cesium, many times higher than the acceptable levels of cesium. Okay, so the government should step in and regulate quality or radioactive levels of these produced, but Japanese government is not doing that. I was told, and they are considering either they have already throwing away radioactive water from the atomic plants, or considering doing it soon. Okay. And the neighboring governments are not doing anything about it. So these are the quality regulation issues. US government and maybe world governments should step in, but we don't have an organization to enforce such regulation yet. Also, about the concerning the COVID vaccine, Russia has produced COVID vaccine. We don't know about their quality. Russia has developed already COVID vaccine, but they don't have the facility to mass produce COVID vaccines there. So they are contacting South Koreans. They do have facility to mass produce these vaccines. They are asking South Korea to produce these Russian vaccines. Russia developed COVID vaccines, and I don't know whether they are willing to okay such orders, because you cannot trust the quality of Russian COVID vaccines. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, says, one of my daughters have received it and she had some fever briefly, but now she's okay. But he does not say all my daughters received the vaccine, okay? So we don't know about the quality of vaccines developed by Russia. What about Chinese vaccine? They claim they have produced and they are giving these vaccines to many Chinese people, mostly hospital workers. Hospital workers, they don't know about the quality. And again, this is a rumor. Only Chinese vaccines are only 10% effective. In other words, 90% of the time, it is likely to actually cause you to be tested positive without really healing you or preventing. Uh, okay, so now the Chinese government is handing out these China-made vaccines, probably developed in the city of Wuhan, but very few people are willing to take these vaccines even if they are free. So they are in a quandary. Uh, so it takes time, and many of the Pfizer developed vaccines, they have not gone through the third phase. Third phase means treating or conducting experiments on tens of thousands of patients. They have not gone through that phase yet. So we don't know what's going to happen. Well, by this time next year, we'll probably figure out what is the best coronavirus vaccine. Okay, any questions? So I would recommend don't worry about regulating the quantity, but rather or price, but regulate the quality. Make sure uh, these producers are delivering genuine quality products. Uh, when I lived in Hong Kong some summers ago, I noticed when I was taking the subway, there were large number of uh, Chinese people carrying uh, baggages of baby food products. There, because Chinese baby foods were laden with toxic chemicals, so Chinese mothers in mainland China don't want China-made baby foods, so they send all these merchants to Hong Kong and they buy up all the baby foods in China. And then they carry them all the way back to China. When then the Hong Kong mothers really upset, they go to the groceries and then they see all these uh, shelves were empty. Uh, Chinese merchants are coming over there to buy, to stock up, to take all these baby foods. So that was a big issue. More than 50,000 babies, Chinese babies, were hospitalized. They were developing kidney diseases, kidney stones, etc. So regulation of price or quantity, that's not a good idea. Regulate the quality. Make sure you can trust, you can buy, and at least it's not harmful for children's or babies' health. Okay, that's it for today. Do you have any questions? You can now unmute and ask questions. All right. Thank you. I will see
Thank
you.
you.
I will see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.